Good evening, West Ham fans. Now, could it be just one game that Lopetegui has to save his job? Yes, everybody, Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Little sort of late evening vid quickly, as there's been quite a bit that's come out in the last sort of couple of hours. Obviously, we're heading towards Monday's trip to Newcastle, and it was a belief that during the international break, a number of meetings were held by the senior team, we'll say, at West Ham to try and come to some sort of agreement in terms of the course of action and putting into place various plans based on various scenarios, based on, to be honest, how the next couple of games go West Ham's way. Obviously, they travel to Newcastle, a Newcastle side which could welcome back Callum Bloody Wilson, who hasn't played for the last 6 months. So, of course, he's going to turn up in a crunch game for West Ham. But, it's no doubt that the pressure on Julian Lopetegui is pretty much at breaking point at the moment, as we face Newcastle. His job is very much on a tightrope, it seems, with everything that's coming out. And particularly this afternoon, an article by Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian. We know that Jacob has connections, high-level connections with David Sullivan. So, again, everything that he tends to sort of release would have probably involved some sort of conversation with David Sullivan, or indeed have to not necessarily signed off as such, not that, but there would have been a conversation. He wouldn't just make it out of thin air. He's basically said he's facing 2 make or break games at West Ham. They've used the international break to explore replacements as well. Although the club are clinging on to the hope that the Spaniard could turn the situation around. Belief in the manager is fading, and there's a serious prospect of him being fired this month. It's understood much will depend on how West Ham fare when they visit Newcastle on Monday, and then obviously host Arsenal on Saturday. Defeating those games are likely to have serious ramifications for Lopetegui, who is under pressure after a poor start. There's even a possibility of a heavy defeat by Newcastle, forcing West Ham's hand a week or so early. Now, they've apparently spent, and we've mentioned sort of the hit list, so to speak, in terms of Tim Steinberg, but apparently the names they've looked at are, unsurprisingly, the former Borussia Dortmund manager Edin Terzic, who we know is ex-West Ham assistant coach and free. But also they've made internal checks, as we've mentioned before, about 𝙍𝙀𝙋𝙊𝙍𝙏, the former Danish coach, Roger Schmidt, the former Benfica coach. Notice we're saying former before everything because they're out of job. And Stuttgart's Sebastian Hoeneß, who we've spoken about at length, who I think would be a very good long-term candidate, in my opinion. But also they understand that other coaches are in the running. Long and short-term appointments are also being considered. So again, it sounds a bit scattergunny, in all honesty. Apparently Graham Potter is available, but West Ham have never seemed to draw to him, which isn't surprising really when you listen to. I remember when he was linked with the West Ham job before Lopetegui was appointed, and the belief internally was he was only a good coach because of Brighton's supercomputer or something like that. So they were quite dismissive of him. It's when you start hearing from the likes of Jacob Steinberg. I mean, we know there's we're not under any illusion. We're not performing well. It hasn't started the way we wanted it to start. Yes, there's mitigating factors in there, but there's obviously still a belief he can turn it around, because otherwise he'd be gone already if there wasn't a belief that he could turn it around, because the international break would have been a perfect time. But it seems they've used that for internal sort of planning, so to speak. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Holly spoke about this afternoon. Jose Mourinho putting his name in the hat. But we will have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But we will have tomorrow the Julien Lopetegui press conference. And more importantly, the return of the Premier League means the return of the For Sure counter. And also the debut of the Focus counter as well. So join us for that, just a sort of late lunch, and we'll be giving you all the highlights of the Julien Lopetegui press conference. I imagine it'll be the shortest press conference in the world because they won't want to put any questions involving his current predicament, probably on the YouTube channel, in all honesty. But that's what's been released by Jacob Steinberg. As we said, we also had the stuff released by Florian Peltenberg, the Sky Sports Germany journalist, who we know has close ties to Tim Steidem. We know that Jacob has close ties to David Sullivan. So it seems it's coming from both sides. From Lopetegui, he's basically been spit roasted, it seemed, by bad news. But we'll wait and see. As I say, football's a funny old game, as Jimmy Greaves always said. And it'll be fascinating to listen to the Julien Lopetegui press conference a little bit later on tomorrow afternoon. So take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and come in your irons.